What if the most decorated combat soldier in modern history wasn't some born warrior at all, but a quiet farmer who really just wanted to be left alone? Today, we're going to dive into the incredible, almost unbelievable story of a man who became an absolute legend pretty much in spite of himself. So, just to give you some perspective here, the Victoria Cross, it's the highest award for bravery you can get in the Commonwealth. Since it was created way back in 1856, only 3 men have ever earned it twice. 2 of them were doctors. Only 1 was a combat soldier. And this is the guy, Charles Upham, a quiet, kind of shy man from New Zealand whose biggest ambition was to work the land. He's the man who holds that completely unique honor. So you have to ask, how on earth did this reluctant farmer become one of the most ferocious and indomitable soldiers of the entire Second World War?
To really get who he was as a soldier, you got to look at the man himself. Upham wasn't a natural athlete. He wasn't some big, imposing figure. In fact, when his dad, who was a lawyer, pushed him to join the family business, Charles was like, nope. He chose a different life, out on the land, studying agriculture. He was always going to follow his own path, even then.
His old-school housemaster really hit the nail on the head. He called him a lone ranger you could rely on completely. Said that once he gave his word, nothing would budge him. And that right there, that tells you everything about his character. Quiet on the outside, but underneath, this fierce, unbreakable integrity. And those were the exact traits that would define him in battle. So when war broke out, Upham, who was 30 years old by then, enlists as a private. He even turned down the first offer he got for officer training. They actually had to persuade him to take a commission. So right from the get-go, he wasn't looking for glory or command. Leadership was just kind of thrust upon him.
And boy, was that leadership put to the test almost immediately. We're talking May 1941, the absolutely brutal Battle of Crete. This is where the quiet farmer was forged into a legend.
For 9 straight days, while he's battling dysentery and is already wounded, mind you, Upham's actions were just off the charts. He single-handedly took out machine gun nests. He ran through open fire to rescue wounded men. At one point, he sprints 600 yards through German lines just to save a company that was cut off. He even pretended to be dead, let 2 enemy soldiers walk right up to him, and then killed them both before grabbing a Bren gun and taking out 22 more from a distance. Just, wow.
For this unbelievable string of heroic acts, he was awarded his first Victoria Cross. And his reaction? He tried to turn it down. He genuinely believed other guys deserved it more. He only accepted it after his commander basically said, look, think of it as an honor for your entire unit. His humility was honestly as deep as his courage. But hold on, because the story is not even close to being over. 1 year later, we're in the deserts of North Africa, during the first Battle of El Alamein. And this is where Upham would do things that would cement his unique place in military history forever. During a nighttime assault on a heavily fortified ridge, Captain Upham was just a whirlwind of action. He personally took out a German tank and a bunch of gun positions with grenades, getting so close that he was actually hit by shrapnel from his own explosions. Then, a machine gun bullet completely shattered his elbow. Okay, and this is where it just gets unbelievable. Anyone else would have been evacuated, right? Their battle will be over. But not Upham. No way. He goes to an aid post, gets his shattered arm put in a sling, and immediately goes right back to his company. He kept leading them all day until he was wounded again. This time so badly he couldn't move and was finally captured.
For what he did at El Alamein, King George VI himself approved a second Victoria Cross, which is known as a bar. And to this day, Charles Upham is the only combat soldier in history to have ever earned one. Remember those other 2 guys? They were both doctors, honored for saving the wounded. Upham was decorated for fighting.
Now, for any other soldier, getting severely wounded and captured by the enemy, well, that means your war is over. For Charles Upham, it was just a new kind of battlefield.
He very quickly became such a massive headache for his German captors that they officially labeled him uncontrollable. See, Upham saw it as his absolute duty to escape, and he went after that duty with the exact same intensity he showed in battle.
There's this one famous story. During a daylight escape attempt, he gets all tangled up in barbed wire. A German guard runs up, aims a pistol right at his head. And Upham's response? He just calmly pulls out a cigarette and lights it. The man's nerve was made of pure steel. His escape attempts were just constant and totally audacious.
He smashed through ceilings, he jumped from moving trucks, he even leaped from a speeding train, knocking himself unconscious. He was so relentless that the Germans finally gave up and sent him to the one place reserved for the most difficult Allied prisoners, the supposedly escape-proof Colditz Castle. When the war finally ended, Upham didn't return home as a hero looking for parades. He came home as a farmer looking for peace. And this final chapter of his life is maybe the most telling part of his whole story. The public started a fund to buy their greatest hero a farm, and they raised a massive sum, £10,000. Upham's response? He politely turned it all down. He insisted that the money be used instead to create a scholarship, to help the children of his fellow servicemen get an education. He just didn't believe he deserved anything more than any other soldier. So he got a standard veteran's loan, bought his own farm, married his sweetheart Molly, and they raised 3 daughters. He lived the rest of his life exactly as he'd always wanted, as a quiet sheep farmer. He almost never spoke about the war, and when he passed away in 1994, the nation he served so selflessly gave him a state funeral, with thousands of people lining the streets to honor their reluctant hero. Here you can really see it, the man and the monument. On one side, the quiet farmer who became a soldier. On the other, the enduring symbol of courage he became for his country. He truly was a man who became a legend, in spite of himself, showing us a kind of heroism that isn't about chasing glory, but about an unshakable sense of duty.
You know, maybe the best final word belongs to his commanding officer, a man who saw it all with his own eyes. His assessment was simple. Charles Upham didn't just win the Victoria Cross twice, he won it several times over. It really leaves you with a question, doesn't it? What truly makes a hero? Is it the medals they win, or is it the quiet, humble life they choose to lead when all the fighting is finally done?